to hip you and to get you equipped for the summer.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Welcome to our first of our six-part series of our Founder Fridays summer series. I hope everybody had an amazing week so far. If you've been following us since the beginning, January 2022, when we first started our first Founder Fridays, you've seen these dynamic workshops grow over time. You've seen it grow from 10 people in the Zoom room to 100 plus people in the Zoom room. And it's all about, of course, just supporting those early stage dreamers, those early stage innovators, and those builders to help take your concept from ideation to a true vision, a true MVP, a true app, a true product, whatever you may be building. And that's what Founder Fridays has been all about, just connections. How do you raise capital? How do you find that mentor? How do you scale up? And so it's just been a blessing to see you all just join us over the years. And so kicking off our summer series, our first of the summer, super excited. We got a dynamic duo of guest speakers today, speaking on our topic, hot takes on raising capital. So for any entrepreneurs in the building, please hop in the chat, drop your links, your Instagram, your website, whatever it may be. But I want people to be able to use this space to build community, to build connection. So please support folks, whether it's as a customer, whether it's as an advocate for whatever you may be building. But want to continue to just expand the space of community for Founder Fridays. We selected Fridays because there's this triumphant feeling about Fridays in a lot of cases where you've conquered the weekend, right? And so we want to take that energy for you to just go on and be great. And then take those gems that you learned, that knowledge that you gained today, and to be able to take that maybe into the weekend. If you have some downtime, take those notes, apply it, and then continue to build on the next week. And so excited for the day. Hot takes on raising capital. I'd love to introduce the dynamic duo. They used to be the DMV's finest, then they abandoned us. Now they're Atlanta's finest. But I'd love to introduce Zaria Smith and Ryan Jones. They are both co-founders and managing directors at Wasabi Partners, dynamic platform that they're building. And make sure that you please be sure to connect with them. They'll give you all the details. Also, you can see their QR code down below, so you can scan out as well and connect with them on LinkedIn. But just to kick things off, just to tell you more about our dynamic speakers today, Zaria Smith is a co-founder of Wasabi Partners, where she works at the intersection of venture, go-to-market strategy, and founder infrastructure. Zaria serves as an account executive at Salesforce. Previously, she was a program director at NextCube at Sway Capital, where she directed national accelerator programs, supported global majority founders, and contributed directly to investment decisions alongside the fund's general partners. Prior to Venture, Zaria made an impact at Salesforce, Amazon Web Services, Sway Capital, and Corridor Ventures. Come on, resume. There, she supports early stage startups and the SMB market with go-to-market execution, cloud adoption, fundraising, readiness, and accelerator operation builds. Her work earned her the AWS Startup Pathfinder Award and a feature in Forbes. All right, I see you, sis. Zaria holds a speech pathology/ideology BA from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. All my Aggies, hop in the chat, show her some love. She is a proud North Carolina native and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. All my AKAs, show them love in the chat. Shout out to the fam. Outside of work, she enjoys exploring the latest in AI, listening to podcasts, art shows, and trying new activities with friends. Everybody, please welcome Zaria Smith. Please show her some love in the chat. And then next up of the dynamic duo, we have Ryan Jones. Ryan is a co-founder at Wasabi Partners, where she works at the intersection of go-to-market strategy, brand, and venture. Currently, Ryan builds brands and marketing programs that turn partner visibility into pipelines, driving enterprise sales across AI and cloud. She has served as a fellow at High Street Equity Partners and is driven by a deep commitment to ensuring global majority founders have access to the capital and credibility they deserve. Come on, mission. Prior to her work in tech and venture, Ryan spent time as a business analyst and brand strategist, where she built partnerships, drove program adoption, and translated data into commercial strategy. Ryan holds an MBA from Howard University School of Business. All my bison, show her some love, hop in the chat, and a Master of Public Health from Tulane University. Come on, master degree. She is a proud Maryland native and a member of Delta Sigma Incorporated. All the Deltas, show us some love. Hop in the chat. Outside of work, she enjoys crafting, baking for friends, and long walks with her rescue dog, Louisiana Jones. I love that name. Shout out to Louisiana Jones. Please feel free, of course, to the QR codes and be sure to connect with them on LinkedIn as well. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to the dynamic duo if they'd like to highlight anything additional on their resumes as well. As you can see, they are heavy hitters. So you're in for a treat today. Super excited for it. And so I will stop sharing and pass it over to our guest speakers today, Ryan and Zaria.
Awesome. Thank you, Keontae. That was a great intro. I will be sharing my screen now. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so hot takes on raising capital presented by Wasabi Partners. And Keontae gave a great intro to both Zaria and I, but I do want to introduce Wasabi Partners. We are a strategic advisory and consulting firm for startups. So think early stage all the way to exit stage. And that's our focus on founders. And then we also work with investors preparing and doing due diligence to provide those strong founders to the investors who are actively deploying capital. Our focus areas are in strategic advisory, capital readiness, and go-to-market strategy. And if anybody has any questions about what exactly Wasabi is, I do encourage you all to visit our website at wasabipartners.co, or of course, reach out to both Zaria and I. So let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, hot take number one. Zaria, I'm gonna pin this to you. A great idea doesn't necessarily get funded. What does that mean?
So, also just to lean more into the conversation, each of these slides that we have with hot takes, we'll take at least 1 to 2 questions. Or if you have a hot take yourself that you've seen in the market, we're happy to expound because we want to make this very engaging. So, like Ryan just mentioned before, something that we've seen in the market and questions and hot takes that are always being brought up is a great idea doesn't necessarily get funded. So, for me, as Ryan and I do our diligence in the market, we genuinely feel that execution is demonstrated through action. And so, what makes investors really believe the execution off of the ideation stage is that as an early stage founder, you cannot just go in with the promises because investors look for consistent milestones. So, when we think about moving quickly, attracting talent, understanding your ICP, which is your ideal customer, and then making sure you have data driven decisions, it keeps you from the conversation of, oh, this is a founder who's just telling me what they're going to do in their ideation stage. And when we think about traction outweighing the ideal itself, we also have the understanding that traction is often more important sometimes once the company has been proven to be market value demand. So to elaborate on that a little bit more is when we think about revenue, your customer growth, your retention, your partnerships, all of these are user engagement that gives your good idea a traction revenue situation instead of just thinking of it as a hypothesis. So I know that was a little long-winded, but hopefully that gave a food for thought to bring in questions. Ryan, did you have anything that you'd like to add to this hot take?
You knocked it out the park. But one thing I do want everyone to leave with on this hot take is that, yes, your idea is a great idea. It's special, it's unique to you, that's your intellectual property, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will bring in all the investment dollars. Really have a proof of concept and know that your idea can generate revenue. And in turn, you will see those investment dollars because at the end of the day, everybody wants a return on their investment, whether it's an angel syndicate or a venture capitalist or a family office. Everyone wants to see a return. So just make sure that that idea generates revenue.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned before, we would love to get a few questions or hot takes you've heard that kind of is adjacent to this one. If anybody would like to come off of mute, we'd love to answer any questions or do a back and forth synopsis. Not all at once, everyone.
And I know sometimes you need
Hey,
people to break the ice. Oh, sorry, never mind. We don't need nobody to
Awesome.
break the ice. Somebody
She broke
ready.
the ice already.
Go
Let's
ahead.
do
I'll pass
it.
it over to you.
no worries. Thanks, Keontae and Clay for hosting. And hey Z, hey Ryan. I'm so happy to be here on this launch. presentation for you guys. Excited to hear more about what Wasabi is doing. Um, I would say my sub take or a couple of subtakes on this hot take is that for, as you guys call it, and I love that you always refer to us in this way, Zaria, the global majority, our ideas almost never get funded.
Mhm.
We have a higher cost to play. We have to have proof of concept. We have to have traction to get funded. And that's just the dynamic that we're living through right now. But for global majority, they don't fund our ideas. People who don't look like us, their ideas will get funded, but we need to have that proof of concept. Another subtake that I have here is that most people think they have great ideas and their ideas are trash. That's my hot take. As someone, you guys know, I talk to founders almost every day. Most of their ideas that they think are amazing and will change the world are really trash. They're not solving real problems. They're not filling gaps in the market. And then another subtake I have on this, and you guys might get to this separately. This is something I've spoken to you ladies about, is that usually, no matter who you are, ideas don't get funded, founders get funded. So that might be something that you guys will touch on in a little bit, but they like to like the people get funded more so than the idea or the solution that's being brought to the table. So those are a couple of takes that I have on this hot take number one.
Awesome.
Thank you, Alex. And that's actually a great segue into hot take number two.
Yes, and just to double back really quickly, Alex, thank you so much for being here. Alex is like a big sister to us. So if anyone has questions and loves a good provocation into AI, she hosts the most amazing saloons and having conversation, even the ones that kind of make you uncomfortable but vulnerable enough to see how the dynamic is changing the world in technology. But going back to what Ryan said, we're going to go into hot take number two, is you needing a warm intro. So Ryan.
Yeah, so like Alex just touched on, a lot of times investors fund people that they know and that they like. So it's not oftentimes you need a warm introduction. And what that may look like is, for example, if you come to Zaria and I and saying, "Oh, I don't know any investors. Can you connect me to who you know?" Well, before we even try to connect you, we need to understand what your idea is, what your company is, where you are in your stage, and what your end goal or end game is. And that can kind of help warrant or tailor who we will be reaching out to on your behalf. So a warm intro looks like, say Keontae or Zaria or Alex, knowing who you are and what you do, and then going to an investor that they know is actively deploying capital in the specific vertical or industry that you're in. And so a warm intro can take you a lot further than a cold email or just randomly bumping into somebody, because at the end of the day, this is a people business, and the person investing in you has to, know that you're a valid person and know that your ideas are valid. And I'll leave it at that. Zaria, I'll pass it to you. And I see we have a hand up as well.
Yes, and happy to get to that hand. I'm going to make a couple of points here to add value to what Ryan mentioned before. So, like she mentioned, warm intros are the most effective when it comes to being in the investment side, especially the IC committees, which gives opportunity to founders and funders to know that there's someone trustworthy in the middle. But like Ryan just mentioned before, with cold outreach, if you do find yourself doing cold outreach, not saying that they don't work, but particularly in a founder, they need to demonstrate more data and clear alignment on that end to understand the investor's thesis. So for example, if you're a climate tech company, you wouldn't want to reach out to a company that's more focused on the marketplace or a health tech investor thesis. You want to make sure that you're staying in the wheelhouse so they actually have the opportunity to look through your details and data, but it needs to make sense with their time. And then we also think about founders who compete in the market as far as networks, and they might not know someone who can lean in as a deal source arm. You can go and attend industry events, join in accelerators, LinkedIn, of course, but making sure that you find founder communities that exist that allow you to get in front of individuals to help you have those introductions for investors. So, i.e., again, a shameless plug with Wasabi, we do seal ourselves as a deal source arm. So anyone that's in our network that we know that can help with the thesis that you are trying to execute in the market, that's where you come in and we build that trust in the beginning. And yes, we see a hand raised. You can come off of mute.
Oh, y'all know it's me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, y'all. My bad. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a lot going on today, and it's just been hard on my body. But I'm thinking of actually building out what they call, I think they call it a data room. I got my numbers together, and I've been meeting with some VCs that reached out to me, and they've been dropping numbers that scare me a lot. But I've been using those numbers to calculate and try to determine my ask. And I realized that if I just kind of use my STTR as leverage, I can get a VC to match it for a decent equity amount. And the valuation could go from what I thought was 1 million valuation could actually be a $10 million valuation on the low end. And I did the math, and with every single check that comes, I'm sorry, the numbers are too high for me to speak regular English. With every single check that comes, with every single VC check that comes, the ROI could go from 10x to 20x, like 30x. And it's like, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but I need to find someone who can help me validate these numbers so that they are, like, I want them to be so accurate that when somebody sees them, they know that I'm not lying. That's all I want. So how do you do that?
Absolutely. So happy to answer that question. And I don't want to get too long-winded because this seems like something we can definitely execute offline. But like we said before, when you're looking into your data and your numbers, that's something that you would like to lean into first before getting in front of investors to make sure that you're executing in the margins that make sense and just data analysis, because those data rooms are extremely important when you think about statements and staffing. Those are questions that investors are going to want to answer. But I will make sure that we connect at the end of this um, panel and we'll go from there. But thank you so much for asking that question. George, I see that you have your hand raised and we'll
I'm
take.
sorry. It's just you have to understand. I just got the numbers, and they're scaring me so much. It's like the numbers actually scared me to stop. Because I remember when you chewed me up. I remember that it was the first meeting I ever had with someone who actually gave it to me straight, and you chewed me up so bad that it made me to know my numbers every single time I coded. And I was so mad at myself because the code was bad. But I realized I focused too much on the code because I did the most I could. So I'm gonna start doing product demos to try and see what people are willing to pay so that I can come up with better numbers and estimates for my data room. Because I think it's time to make the data room, but the data room is not going to be accurate unless the code is optimized for demos. So I'm gonna
Got it.
optimize the code for demos really soon.
Awesome. Well, like we said before, we'll make sure we get in touch with you. I have your information and we'll be able to dive deeper into those numbers offline.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My English is switching up because the English is kind of fighting my brain right now. What is wasabi?
Wasabi Partners is our consultant agency. But to make sure that we're being respectful of time, I'll message you and Ryan and I will connect with you later this week and we'll crunch those numbers down and move forward. But
Oh, you
everything's gonna
guys
be
are
all
for
good.
free?
We'll talk offline.
Keontae, thank you so much for commenting, but for free?
But we'll
We'll
definitely get
take
into
this one
things.
Oh
offline,
my
Ebenezer.
gosh.
Let's give Brandon a chance, but we'll definitely take this one offline and let you guys connect.
Let me shut my
Thank you, sir.
mouth because I actually do need to shut up more.
Okay, awesome. But Brandon,
Yeah, no, I love the hot take. I just wanted to ask, let's say you're not at a target school or you're in, San Francisco, one of those areas where density of your network and warm intros go a long way. How would you counter if you don't have those warm intros and maybe you're just applying to accelerators, reaching out to people, cold emails, LinkedIn, things like that? What's kind of the strategy behind trying to raise when you're not in like that warm network density areas and things like that?
And
absolutely.
Brandon, before we get into that, I'd love to ask where you're based.
I am based in Atlanta.
Perfect. Well, I would recommend to really not use where you're based geographically as an excuse because there are a lot of emerging tech spaces, Atlanta being one, surprisingly, New Orleans being another, North Carolina has a lot of emerging tech scenes as well. So just like Facebook, just like Instagram, you build your network, you reach out to different people. Allow that to also be your story as your founder journey because we're on the internet, everybody is connected somehow, some way. And then don't be afraid to, I know the topic is a warm intro, but also reaching out on LinkedIn to people that look like you and I also goes a really long way. I find personally a lot of times in the venture space, if you are going to a Zaria Smith or say someone that works at a venture fund, they are open to talking to Black and Brown people about where they are and the journey that they're going on to ultimately receive capital. One thing I did want to touch on that Zaria and I didn't get to is about sharing where you are with it, literally anybody who will listen. So when you think about talking shop or just keeping people updated. We go to Instagram, we go to Facebook. Oh, my dog just peed on the carpet. OMG. But kind of have that um similar disposition on your founder journey like this week here's my update for where I am as a founder, or oh, I'm going to Afrotech, for example, would love to connect with anybody going there. So just really be vocal about what you are doing and where you're at in your journey, and don't be afraid to reach out to people. Or similarly, if you see, for example, Keontae or Zaria or myself on LinkedIn and we're connected to somebody that you want to talk to, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I see you're connected to this person. Would you mind giving an introduction? So just really leverage your network and don't be afraid to, make yourself visible.
Yes. And last but not least, those were great points. I'm always a huge advocate. If you can't help me, then who can? And I think everyone should always use that strategy. If someone knows someone who can invest or have the conversation to continue to prevail and move the needle. But I will make sure we're being cognizant of time. We'll go ahead and go to hot take number 3.
We did have a hand up.
Oh, we did.
George, would you like to chime in?
Hey everybody,
Hey.
my name is George Mason, founder and CTO of Follow Up AI. And I would say that based on the last one about the cold or the warm intros, for me, what I've done is, well, one, I did Square One Accelerator in Atlanta. I was recently graduated in the last cohort. So I think Atlanta is an Atlanta Tech Hub is a really good place to kind of meet a lot of people while I was down there. So yeah, Atlanta is definitely a great place to kind of make connections. Just like I literally just went there to go because I left my keys there, and from there I had like 15 different conversations about people building AI tools as well as like sharing and connecting information. So like that tech hub is huge, and we're all Black, right? It was like male, female, everything, different ages, also like different levels of expertise where like for me, like I'm 10 years in AI and data science, and then I'm meeting people who are just now getting into AI and building with Claude Code and things like that. So it was pretty awesome to kind of Atlanta is definitely a hotspot for that. But in terms of for the warm leads, so the company that I built, Follow Up AI, actually, how I use it right now is that like I'm on LinkedIn like 24/7, and so right now I can like I post a lot via this AI tool from another person that I work with that they allow me to kind of like auto generate LinkedIn posts that kind of drive traffic and awareness and kind of like touch upon like the mission of the company as well as like things that I'm doing, just to kind of use that as like my founder email list, I guess, right? So like my network is always seeing the cool things that I'm doing and what I'm building. And so like from that, following the people that engage with me and then reaching out to them to say like, hey, thanks for engaging with my product or my link. Let's connect for a coffee chat. And through that process, like I've got like my girlfriend I'm dating right now, got it through LinkedIn, like business opportunities where like Invest Fest, Atlanta Tech Week, Render. I'm able to like get connections that way as well. So like just being on LinkedIn and be having like the slight audacity to kind of just like reach out to people who are building in the space that look like you or don't look like you or engaging with your content, it really helps to kind of like get to that next level where you're getting people just aware of your product. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, George, for that. And like you said before, you made a lot of valid points. And also, just never limit yourself to your city either. I'm someone who, like Ryan said, talk to anyone who will listen about your business at all times. But I do want to make sure we get into hot take 3. So, Ryan, would you like to raise the question?
Yeah, so hot take, raise capital as slowly as possible. A lot of times, founders want to say, oh, I'm fresh out the gate. I'm raising a $5 million fund. Who can invest in me right now? But on the back end, it's really important to know that there's something called a capital table that exists. And the more money that you raise from the more people that you raise from, your equity stake dilutes every time somebody comes along and invests capital into your business. So my advice or hot take is to raise as slowly as possible and really exhaust all the options that are out there. There's different grant programs, literally, you name it. There are some wild grants out here, and they may be small, but $1,000, $5,000 can definitely go a long way, especially if you're a smaller team. Zaria?
Absolutely. And a question that actually gets raised to us as we speak to some of our early stage founders that we work with is when should founders actually begin fundraising? And a take that I would always like to dive into is that validating your fundraising should always begin when your capital is accelerating to prove momentum and not create it. So ideally, when I say that is that founders have validated the problem, built an MVP. You need to demonstrate your customer demand, but know exactly what your capital is going to do when raising. So to say that is that when most of the time you're investing, you're looking for an investor and you're raising capital, and the investor asks you, hey, why do you need this $5 million currently? If you can identify that it's going into revenue growth, customer retention, partnerships, technology validations, you should take a moment first to understand making yourself attractive before getting in front of the money. And that makes you more valuable because, and just to raise a hands, is anyone familiar with bootstrapping mean? I'm happy to elaborate, but if anyone doesn't know what bootstrapping mean, it means basically using your own money that you can or building a business model that can generate your own revenue that helps build discipline and protect your ownership, but it also forces you to validate your customer demand before relying on outside capital, which Ryan mentioned is the more ownership you have over your company, the better. And I see a couple of hands here. Jalen, I'll take yours.
Thank you. You kind of just answered my question. I'm kind of in that space right now. I'll figure out whether I want to raise money or not. Just a few months ago, just graduated from college. I was a student athlete at Fordham University. Now I recently started NIL Marketplace. We're in the very early stages of it. I built it in my dorm room. We scaled over 150 athletes across 40 different universities, and we have 7 brand partnerships. So we're doing like very, very good things. And the whole point of it is, give athletes, brand partnerships as well, provide them with mentorships on how to build their brand, just provide them guidance all around because a lot of things wrong with it. Now, like I just said, we're scaling, we're showing proof of concept on both sides with the brand partnership with the athletes. And I recently just went down Florida for like a networking event on
Mhm.
just getting feedback from like investors at like Sacramento Kings, the big clubs, and a lot of them was I made the in-person connection. So if I do want to decide to raise, 'cause that was the whole reason on going on there. If I wanted to,
Right.
go that route or to continue bootstrap, and a lot of them was kind of what you just said, the bootstrapping term, like just good stick with it as long as possible. But I am receiving some opportunities where it's like, hey man, I love what you're doing. Like that's how a conversation might want to invest. So my question really is like at what point do I invest is when like things or start raising when as things get out of hand or is when I'm presented a good opportunity or
Mhm.
uh, things like that.
Yeah, happy to answer that. So, in my opinion, just hearing your back end, and we can also chat offline, but I see the strongest founders raise when they know exactly where that capital is going to retain measurable growth. So you don't want to go in and thinking, hey, I need this capital to solve my operational problems. Your capital, when you think about taking other people's money, is when it becomes a growth problem because many founders find themselves thinking that they're running out of cash when in actuality, if someone's like, hey, I'm gonna wire you 2 million tomorrow, and exactly what are you gonna do with this in 18 months? If you can't really answer that question, you're gonna have a hard time. So making sure you're able to answer the question when you ask someone for their money, what are you gonna do with it? Because also they need a return on investment as well. Did that answer your question, Jalen?
Yes, that was perfect, and I'll chat with you after as well because
Okay,
that was great.
awesome.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. And we're going to keep things rolling a little bit here. So, Ryan, let's go to the next one. So, hot take number 4, investors fund potential. This is always a funny one to me because we can go many avenues and go into a soapbox. But something that I see that's super critical here is storytelling when we think about investment decisions. And I made a point at a previous speaking engagement that we had with Keontae. Does anybody know who the best storyteller is in the world? I mean, the world. Anybody want to drop any names in the chat? Like, just give me your best. Who do you think is the best
My
storyteller
mama,
in the world? Who?
my mama, so she can lie for all of Africa.
Oh,
I love her, but she
okay,
loves to lie.
Rawling.
The
What?
second she found out just a little bit about my business, she started telling everybody that like I was like rich or something, and it made me really uncomfortable because I don't know, like well like people are starting to talk to me and I'm starting to sense envy in ways that are really hurtful. So how do you guys handle that? Because the envy was there from day one and it almost ended me, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I understand that. We can definitely talk about that offline. I want to make sure we answer these questions. And you all have said really great names in the chat, but the best storyteller in the world was actually Walt Disney. And the reason that he has
Right.
been known as the best storyteller in the entire world and universe is because we all know and love Disney movies. Everyone has a favorite Disney movie. And the reason is because he has a great articulation of explaining what's going on, going into the problem, fixing the problem, and then execution. And so, what that means is when we think of traction and storytelling, you want to position yourself to win. And great storytelling really does create conviction, but it also shows that you have a back end of evidence. And Ryan, do you have anything else you'd like to piggyback off of this?
Let me see. Investors fund potential. Um, I would say yes, you have an idea, and this kind of goes back into those warm intros and connecting with different investors. Um, Investors are people at the end of the day, and they want to see growth and see that you're taking different opportunities to expound upon your ideas and make them better. So, this is kind of a hot take that we'll get to a little later, but even if someone tells you no, not right now, or maybe further down the line, just keep investors updated with your growth and what you're doing because at the end of the day, they do invest in potential. You see a lot of people that do not look like us and they get capital based off some back of the napkin idea or math. And that can be frustrating, especially for founders that look like us, but just keep people abreast of what you're doing and how you're growing and understand your metrics and your data. And I'll throw it over to Alex because I know she has a good disposition on this.
Yes. And Alex, before you make the statement, I just want to be very intentional when we use the word potential. When we think about potential from the investor's measurement point, because I've been on the investor side, is potential means learning speed, decision making, resilience, communication, execution, history, leadership, customers, employees, partners. And that means even if you have not gained actual revenue, all of those other potential factors are just as measurable. But Alex, yes.
I actually just want to double click and ask you guys a question. I want to make sure I'm understanding that you guys are giving us guidance to package our potential into story form, if I'm hearing that correctly. And so I'm curious if you have any frameworks or any best practices for how we get better at storytelling.
Yeah.
Or I want to ask, is that a service that Wasabi could help us out with as founders?
Yes. So, as founders, we do help with your storytelling, pitch decks, and expertise. And just diving into that of what it looks like to be a great storyteller is that investors often look for your deep industry expertise. You should be obsessed with the concept of your business, of why you're trying to assist in a problem in the world, having strong leadership, and also the ability to recruit exceptional talent within your business. Because not only do investors look for the founder market fit, but they look for the team fit as well, because you have to remain scrappy. So if something breaks, it doesn't work, you have to understand and have the ability to be adaptable as you move and the markets change through and through. Alex, did that answer your question?
It did. That was great feedback. And I'm so excited for all of the founders that Wasabi Partners is going to help with their storytelling.
Awesome. Thank you. And we will go to hot take number 5. So, Ryan, the pitch deck is not the pitch. Get into it, girl.
Contrary to belief, yes, a pitch deck is great to have, but if you're in a scenario like Jalen was when he was down in Florida and you're meeting people face to face, you need to know every in and out of your business, from the type of customer that you're attracting to the numbers that you're pulling in to every single data point your business has. You should understand it through and through, and also understand your forecasts and your projections. That's what makes you attractive to an investor. So, yes, it's great to have a pitch deck, especially when you're on a call. A lot of times founders get on a call with investors and walk through their pitch deck. It provides a framework and a story of where they want the investor to focus on, in real time on the call. But don't allow it to be a crutch. Allow it to be a tool that really helps and guides you in that conversation to ultimately securing funds. Zaria, any?
Yes. And to also continue to add value, what Ryan mentioned, just to give an example of what you could see as a very strong pitch with investors are looking for, it's actually as simple as what it sounds. Discovering the problem, articulating what it is, why it matters, the solution, the market opportunity, the evidence of demand, understanding of having that strong competitive advantage if the market is big, and then the vision for scale. And that vision for scale also comes into what we spoke about before, is when it's time to raise capital, we shouldn't be receiving capital from investors if we don't know exactly where the money is going to provide and help with growth. And then also, when we think about what happens after the conversation or the pitch, because again, the founder is really what sells the business. If you're scrappy founder market fit and you understand your product market fit, it gets into the real deal of due diligence. And so understanding your financials, your customer reference, and making sure the market dynamics make sense in your pitch deck as well. But only if you're able to articulate your business within the first 30 seconds, investors actually like that more than you know, because it gives us an idea on, you understand what's going on. You're the person who knows your business the best. So because the pitch deck is not a pitch, it also is, but make sure you're taking a step in understanding all of the pain points of why you're pitching your business. Now, do we have any questions? I feel like I've seen some hands. Would you use a business model canvas to hit many of those key points in person? You could, but in my opinion, when it comes to understanding those different marks, wait, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Are you meaning the pitches, the way the order of form is, and when I mentioned about like the problem, why it matters, the solution? Is that what you're asking? I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Antone? Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes, you can use Canvas to answer all of those key points. And then if you do need any assistance with that, Wasabi, we do help and do full due diligence in assisting with consulting, getting those pitch decks and making you investor ready, but also prepping you to make sure you're able to articulate your business at the best of your ability as a founder. All right. And then we have Hot take number 6. You want to read it, Ryan?
Yeah, no is temporary. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Zaria, I want to kick it to you to talk about this hot take.
Yes. So, like Keontae had mentioned before, after being on the investor side at the previous company, Next Cube, I was able to go through and see the ability to go back to founders who have applied before into the fund and we're actually able to get in after applying maybe once or twice or 3 times. So just to say that many investors do revisit companies after founders do demonstrate progress. And when I say progress, we think about increased traction, stronger unit economics, understanding your product market fit, stronger leadership or product improvement. And believe it or not, sometimes a lot of companies have gotten away with just changing the name and making their business model better. Sometimes it can be that simple when you think of traction. But when we also think about the no, don't ever take no as in they're just done and rejecting you. Most investors do love when you ask for constructive feedback, but also make sure that you're asking for precise feedback and giving concise updates over the few months and highlights. Because once they go back into those rounds of deploying capital again, you never know that they've seen the traction that you've had. And persistent means consistently demonstrating your progress when it comes to the respective, excuse me, y'all, there was a gnat. When it comes to the respective investors' time. So you want to make sure that you're always giving them new information, that you're taking the feedback, but also pursuing the investors in their decisions. So never take no as a no, but maybe a next time. But again, if they're not interested, like Ryan mentioned before, if not you, then who would be interested? And Ryan?
No, you hit the nail on the head. 10 out of 10, no notes. That brings us to the end of our conversation. Again, Wasabi Partners is a strategic consulting and advisory firm. We are based in Atlanta for any Atlanta folks that want to connect. We do go-to-market operations for founders that could be early stage or ready to exit. And we also work very closely with investors and corporate partners. So if you have any questions, please visit our website or reach out to Zaria and I've also put in the QR code to our LinkedIn, so please give us a follow. But we really want to open it up to any questions that you may have, any hot takes that you may have heard in the market. And let's just have an open discussion because oftentimes, especially with founders, sometimes we're all going through the same things and it just takes a conversation to kind of shed light on those things. So would love any questions or open
Yes.
conversation.
Does anyone have any questions, open conversation before we do closing statements? And again, please use that QR code. We're happy to help. But does anyone feel free to throw the questions in the chat, come off of mute.
Can I come off real quick and ask something real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so a couple of things, right? I'm optimizing my code base for demos, right? How do I communicate that traction with investors to set realistic expectations instead of like trying to just seem like I'm chasing a check? That's the first major question.
May you repeat that for me one more time?
So like as a founder that's like about to start doing demos in about like 2 weeks to 1 month, right? How do I communicate that traction realistically and effectively in relation to the numbers that have been developed, if they're even real or good enough numbers?
Well, like we mentioned before, you genuinely want to make sure that, and again, we can have the conversation of helping of crunching those numbers down, of understanding where you are in the market, but also being able to articulate where you are within your business. So if you're in a phase 1 or phase 2 and you maybe generated some revenue and you found stickiness within the product that you've built, investors do love that credibility. And I think I heard you mention you don't want investors to think that you're just chasing a check, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're chasing a check to continue to scale and grow your business. So always feel confident that you are going in to build traction and growth. But again, you don't want to go in with the mindset of trying to receive capital only on the operations side, but when you're in the growth stage.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good thing for me because it helps me to adjust my funding and budget priorities really well. Another thing, how do you handle your own community ruining your confidence as you're going through the journey? Because if I'm being brutally honest, when I started out, right, most of the hate that I got was from my own people. I was almost homeless when we first met, actually. That's why I was obsessed with the check. It was not the smartest move, but being almost homeless will do that to you. But around that time, a lot of my closest friends fell out with me. They dogged me out and talked trash about me until I lost all faith in myself and my business. And it took me years to develop any sort of confidence to talk about my business. And I need confidence now, but I just don't know if I have. So, do you have any tips on dealing with that kind of like trauma? I don't know how that works.
Well, honestly, because we work more on the professional side, we're happy to help build confidence as far as consulting and assisting with your business. But in my opinion, it's just always stay true to your business. I mean, you're the only one who knows the execution, and everyone has different swim lanes and goals in life. So I wouldn't take anything personal. Everyone is going to have people who might question what they're doing, but that's not our business. So never absorb what
You're
other
right.
people are
My
thinking
baby
about
is my
you.
only business that matters, and my baby is 2 years
Exactly.
old. He growing up, and he like he don't need to, he don't want to act right now, but he gonna be all right. He gonna be all right. I promise you.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions, Keontae, before we close out?
Any
I
last
have a
question?
question.
Yes.
Just a
Yes.
general, just, I would love to see the expertise that you guys bring is so clear and it's so beautiful to see. So again, I'm so excited for the launch of your business. Um, I wanted to ask if you could give just your general perspective, bird's eye view on founders' biggest blockers to growth. And what your recommendations would be, what your expertise is on how founders should go about addressing those blockers to growth. Maybe if you want to touch on your top blocker or top two blockers, maybe that's they're having issues with go-to-market. Maybe they're having issues with hiring, which is typically a funding problem. I'm curious, just in general, what are the biggest trends that you see, top one or two trends, and just your expertise on how you think most founders should be addressing those trends. I understand everything is specific to the founder, to the solution, but just if you just have any general advice for founders, and then again, how Wasabi Partners is looking at helping founders address their blockers to growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let Ryan also talk about the go-to-market, but some trends that I've seen so far to keep it in short is those market shifts. There's so much going on. AI is really moving a lot of startups at the speed of lightning. We cannot keep up sometimes. But when we think about market shifts and those product market fit opportunities, founders are getting blockers because a lot of founders at this time, they're just throwing AI into everything, but they're not able to actually execute how they're using it for their users and to gain real traction and stickiness and retention within their business. So when we think about founders trying to help reduce risk execution, they don't really always know how to articulate that when it comes to investors having that conversation. And then also, again, becoming investor readiness when it comes to those data rooms and having those structural financial staples and statements, legal documents. I was just talking to Ryan about how there was a founder that had a hiccup where they ended up registering their business with documentation wrong. They end up hitting Series A and end up having to go belly up because they registered their business as a C Corp instead of an S Corp. And it's those nuances that need to be educated in early stage founders. But again, it's that knowledge gap that we are here to help close moving forward. And Ryan, do you have any statements about that?
Ooh, I don't know how to chime in on that one because you hit it on the head. But from my perspective, a lot of time is that internal strategy of where you want your business to go. So, of course, a founder can go into Claude and go into ChatGPT and kind of flesh out an idea, but it's the actual execution and how they're going about getting and retaining customers. Yes, a wait list is great. Verification that you're onto something, but actually having people repeatedly coming back to use your product and kind of touching on that, like not every idea is a great idea. The market is full of the same ideas. You look at brands like Poppy, at the end of the day, it's a carbonated drink, but there's so many other brands doing the same exact thing. So even using AI as a tool is great, but also finding that product market fit and what makes your idea so much different and better in addressing your competitive moat is an advantage a lot of founders should take.
Awesome. And Alex, hope that answered the question. But if no one else has any questions, I'm happy to do a closing statement for you all, and then I'll send it back over to Keontae. First, we want to say thank you all so much for attending this session. This is actually part of our first launching, doing a workshop here. So thankful to always work for Venture for Them. Been working with Keontae and the team for a very long time. But I just want to leave you all with some notes is that capital does follow confidence, capital does follow confidence, and when it follows execution, and here with the Wasabi Partners, we do believe that companies that raise, they aren't just the best at necessarily being loud with their story, but having the clearest strategy. And that's where we come in on the side of go-to-market and building strong relationships and discipline to build real value when it comes to asking for capital. So our job to you all as founders and investors who might be on the call is that when you come to us, we're already here as that deal source arm with opportunities that are built to last. Keontae, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Zaria. Ladies and gentlemen, please give another round of applause to both Zaria and Ryan. I mean, amazing job, amazing job. I know you all have to go, so out of respect for your time, everyone, I did drop a link in the chat. Please be sure to connect with Wasabi Partners. They gave out a lot of free game today, but now we need you to go click that link. And if you want to follow up, be sure to connect with them. But we appreciate the gems. We appreciate the hot takes. Got a little spicy in here, so I'm glad that, folks were able to receive and just understand, the feedback of how to expand their business, how to scale, if you're in ideation, where to go from here. And so we appreciate you all kicking off our Founder Friday Summer Series. Extremely grateful for and excited for what the future of Wasabi Partners looks like. So we appreciate you all. Everybody, please have an amazing weekend. I know some of you all still have some additional questions. I know, unfortunately, I believe that Zaria and Ryan do have to go, but be sure to connect with them offline on LinkedIn and so forth. But we appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing you all at the next Founder Fridays. Have an amazing weekend, everyone.
Thank
Thank you all
you.
so much. Have a great one.
Thank you.